We all know that things have changed at the Walt Disney Company. Disney parks are not what they used to be. Well, a source has reached out with documentation that shows us that 50% of the Walt Disney Company is now new hires within only a few years of service. Let's talk about the dramatic shift and why it happened here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, a theme park enthusiast, and here with me is a man who I go to not only for my theme park questions, but also my questions on how to fix my computer. Vash, how do you open this PDF?
Well, let's see. Let's download something called Norton Antivirus and
Alt
F4. Let's
never.
go ahead and do that.
That is a virus that just happens to be a legally paid one. Let's talk about the Disney Company, though. We don't have a graphic to put up on screen here, but we were provided some documents, and these documents had a wide range of information in them, covering Disney parks releases, covering habits within the parks. We just had a video talking about Disney acknowledging phone fatigue. They know now internally they're discussing the problem of people hating to be on their phones, probably because of all the nickel and diming that happens to customers by Disney on those phones. But we have another one here that was an interesting revelation. It was in the middle of another document, and there were several lines that let us know just what's going on at the Walt Disney Company and why it is different. Vash, let us know.
This is really fascinating because this was buried deep in all this paperwork right here, and you know, some people were like, pin trading, let's not focus on that too much. But I'm like, oh, hang on a second. You never know what insight you can glean, even with something as benign as pin trading. And sure enough, we found some really interesting stuff embedded in that. So just to take us all back, pin trading was in 2020 effectively canceled for the immediate future, and you could probably see why something like that would be canceled if you lived through that era. Of course, you know, obviously it was all about, you know, keeping your distance and not necessarily touching surfaces and cleanliness and all this kind of stuff, right? So you couldn't necessarily have a pin trading within that framework. And so because there's some investment that goes on with the company in order to support that, specifically for cast to actually wear lanyards and pins on them, it was like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and stop this project. And so pin trading has really been off the table in terms of cast members actually wearing lanyards and actually pin trading with guests up until very recently. I believe it was relaunched on April 7th, 2024, according to the research here. So that was a Herculean effort, apparently. It took a lot of money in order to support that. Well, go ahead, Jonas.
When we talked about this, you told me about a specific reason that cast members were not quite prepared to deal with pin trading, that some of those traditions of pin trading might have been lost, and they have to get used to a new system.
Yes. The quotes in the document were very interesting. They said that you couldn't necessarily assume that cast members knew how pin trading worked, and so you couldn't just put back or reestablish pin trading as it was, because the exact quote was, over 50% of our cast members today are new. Now that is astounding.
Now this is critical, and for those of you who have not been fully paying attention here, if you're the kind of person that listens to this in the background, I want you to stop and think about what Vash just said, what these documents reveal, that 50% of all cast members are not familiar with pin trading, a system which has been in place for a very long time at the Walt Disney Company. And that 50% is not familiar because they weren't at the company when pin trading last ended in 2020. We're now in 2024. March of this year, they're saying that there has been a 50% change in Disney parks cast members here in the United States. I can't speak to whether or not internationally they have a Disney pin trading policy here, but they're saying half turnover for the Disney parks. And by the way, there's less, I do believe there's less people working for the parks than there were at the time anyways. So there have been a few incidents that have caused this to happen. First of all, when 2020 happened, and I'm going to be vague because I don't want to talk about spicy things that caused this to happen. There are a few initiatives. First of all, there's Reimagine Tomorrow, which has changed the culture of the company anyways, not necessarily for the better. Obviously, diversity is good, inclusion is good, but some of the things that we've heard about, like initiatives within the company that say that in order to hit your metrics in the Disney ad sales division, you had to keep a diversity journal talking about your commitment to diversity and the actions that you undertook It didn't matter what your sales figures were because you could be the greatest salesman within the company. But if you didn't also hit those ad targets, they were going to pull back the money that you made, rightly made under different circumstances, if you did not also follow these diversity mandates or attend regular meetings. So there's already a culture change here. We've seen indications that people within the company felt silenced or a chilling effect because they couldn't speak up. They didn't feel like they could speak their political beliefs or even their religious beliefs. We're now seeing a lot of lawsuits coming out of the production side here saying that people that were not allowed their religious exemptions or even medical exemptions for a medical procedure that was very popular and but so popular that people weren't sure that it was going to work, that was mandated by maybe OSHA through a certain administration. We won't get into the political side of it, but that mandate also, even though there was a government aspect to it, the Disney company pushed for that medical procedure to happen, and they wanted all of their employees to get it. They also pushed for mask wearing and things like that. And if you did not get that well, let's see, gene therapy, that you could no longer work at the Disney parks and resorts. So we have issue after issue that would push people out of the company. Vash, are there any others that I'm missing here?
Well, in the course of Disneyland being closed for 412 days, unfortunately, by certain people in California who wanted it to be so, the company was forced to lay off 28,000 employees as part of that process, or 28,000 cast members, because well, obviously you had healthcare and everything else, really making up a large portion of the expenditure at that time. So it was like, well, we have to cut this. And because of those cuts, because of the mass firings, and obviously too, Jonas, you talk about medical procedures, that was definitely a big reason why a lot of long timers who have been with the company for so long left. This is, I think, where you get to that for 50%. And because they were so starved in terms of labor, that's when they decided, okay, we're going to go ahead and let's say, reduce the standards for Disney look, and,
right,
and do a whole bunch of things to enlarge our talent pool as much as possible, because well, they needed to fill tens of thousands of roles quickly.
Right. And so what you're referring to here and the coverage that we did on that Park Places, when the inclusion key came in, that not only was a diversity initiative, but it also had the effect of lowering the standard. So all of a sudden you could see people with a lot of tattoos in the parks, which that has created its own issues. Like if someone has a large tattoo of a cartoon character that is not owned by the Walt Disney Company, the Walt Disney Company now doesn't have recourse if you've got a giant, say, Looney Tunes character tattooed on a cast member's leg walking around Fantasyland. I would say that's bad show to have a different company's IP so prominently featured, especially if he's got a really muscular leg that all the ladies are distracted by. Huh? Who knows? Awkward comments aside here, even if Disney reversed all of this, I think they would have an issue bringing people back, because once you say that you are willing to do all of these things, once you say that you are willing to do all these things that might have a chilling effect on employees, even if you contact those employees and say, we promise we're never going to do that again, they will remember that this is a company that is perfectly willing to do these kinds of things, to maybe force people to quickly make medical decisions that they are not prepared to make. I'm being as nice as possible, and I'm trying to bright side Disney's case here, because I do think that there maybe was some original initiative that they felt like if all of the cast members did this, that it would be a safer place for people to visit. Of course, it seems like their competitors across the street there, Universal Studios, benefited a little bit from not having to mask nearly as often, and maybe some other initiatives like that. Vash, looks like you got something to add.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of theme parks benefited from this actually happening, like Knott's, for example. But you had a lot of talented people move through all kinds of industries, and unfortunately, institutional knowledge, the culture at Disneyland was irrevocably changed. That's for sure. Walt Disney World, all of that. But you can see even like the costs associated with doing something like this. I mean, look. they, the documents talk about they had to deploy 15,000 lanyards full of pins to in order to start pin trading. But more than that, though, they had to have like pinspiration rallies is what they called them, or trade shows in which they actually showed the benefits to pin trading, and if you indulged in the program yourself, what you could expect. But think about how much money was actually spent in order to educate a new cast about this program and to do these certain things.
Right. And this is just one program that we're talking about here, not counting all the amazing techniques that were done in order to praise calling little girls princesses. And what was it they called boys in the park?
I don't know. They call everybody friends now.
Yeah.
but I think it was like a prince or pirates or something to that effect.
Yeah, and it creates a lot of awkwardness in the parks to call people friend over and over and over again. So we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about does this explain a lot to you? Because this explains a lot to me as to why the company has changed so much, why the attitude has changed within the parks. Do you think that this is a permanent thing that can't be fixed, or is Disney now just trying to work to get this 50% of people to try to get them to that level that they were before? Or is the cat out of the bag? Is there no way to get this toothpaste back in the tube? Is this now essentially a different company altogether? Let us know in the comment section down below. Of course, like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place if you want to keep abreast of all of these interesting leaks that keep coming our way. Thank you, by the way, to the people who sent this to us. It's very helpful. Stay tuned to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.